About that, okay?
Rose, thanks for joining us.
Oh, now
Steve
we're.
Woodcock, thank you.
Okay, pleasure.
Welcome to the last fall coffee talk. This is for music, parents and guardians. And we have three students who've graciously agreed to join us, in addition to Associate Dean Winkleman and Dean Woodcock. Leslie, Lena, and Johanna, do you all want to introduce yourselves real quick,
Sure.
please?
Okay. Hello. I'm Leslie Harker. I'm in the voice program here at UNCSA. I'm a senior. And yeah.
Hi, I'm Lena. I'm a percussionist. I've been here for 3 years and I'm a senior too.
I'm Johanna. I go by JoJo. I play the cello. I'm a senior, and this is my 4th year here.
And which of you are residential students?
All of us.
You're all residential students. Great. Well, thank you for being here. If you're joining us remotely and you have Gmail, you can use the YouTube chat feature. If you don't have a Gmail account, you can email Brock questions directly at snyderb@uncsa.edu, SNYDERB@uncsa.edu. And then we have some in-person folks, so welcome. And Tony, did you want to give your introduction? Or-
Yeah, well, my welcome to you all. Just looking at what an elegant group we are. So we should all wave to all those people there. So let me introduce myself, if I may. You're probably all expecting to meet Brian Cole, much more famous in the school than I am. Well, as I'm sure all of you know, Brian Cole has been elevated into the position of Chancellor for the interim. So he is very busy doing that. It was an opportunity that came his way. I was absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure all his friends and colleagues and family were as well. So he's in that wonderful position now, and there's a search process going on for the new Chancellor. And I'm sure he'll be a candidate for that. And then he phoned me when all of this came about. He phoned me in July, and he said, and I live in Valencia, Spain, so I'm on a different continent. But we've been friends for a long time, and as a consultant, I've done some work for the school. So I know the school fairly well. I've even met David Winkleman. And he said, would you be prepared to come and help the school out? We need a dean for the interim. And I said, wow, that's quite an opportunity. And I'm very attracted to the idea, but I have a whole life in front of me in Europe. And I'd have to turn all of that around and reorganize everything. Give me a few days and I'll see what's possible. So I phoned him back a few days, and there were a few wrinkles in all of that, but essentially I'm going to be here from now until the end of June, helping the school. And I'm delighted so to do. And I'm delighted to be working with everyone here, and I'm delighted with our wonderful students, and it's great to have parents here as well. So that's why I'm here, and that's the work that I'm doing. I should just say a little bit about my background. My background, I trained as a musician, so I was a very, very serious violinist once upon a time. And now I just play for my own fun, and so it makes it very, very different. So it's none of this serious 3-4 hours of practice anymore. It's just, just what I want to do. The pieces that I play, and I don't play them to any teachers, which is really nice. So I was in the performing arts in the UK. I ran symphony orchestras over there, Royal Liverpool Philharmonic and Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra. And then in the 1990s, I was headhunted to come over to America to run the Oregon Symphony. And I was delighted to do that. Had a wonderful adventure in Oregon. Still go back there, have many friends in Oregon. And then I was headhunted to run the Minnesota Orchestra in Minneapolis. So went on, I ran that. Had some of the coldest winters I have ever experienced in my entire life. And I met some of the the largest mosquitoes I've ever seen anywhere in the world. These mosquitoes, actually the state bird is a mosquito. And the mosquitoes are so big, they carry off small children. It's really extraordinary. It can be eaten alive if you wanted to go out at 6 o'clock on a summer's day in Minnesota. And then I got another call to run the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. And I did that job until about 2015. So my wife and I, we lived in America for about 20 years. We're American citizens, very proud of that. And in 2015, we decided to go back to Europe. And I started my own consultancy there, and I've been consulting throughout Europe, major conservatories from London, Helsinki, Aarhus, The Hague, even as far afield as Kazakhstan, would you believe? And I've also done quite a bit of work in the States as well. And so I love my life, and it's incredibly varied. So I bring to the table my experience of higher education, but also my experience of the performing arts as well, and what it is to be a professional musician. I think it's a really good combination to have. The school here, and my impressions of it when I came and did little consultancies, was always very, very strong. But getting to know the school and getting to know the whole university, I think this is a terrific place to be. So good choice, really good choice. There are some things happening which I just wanted to bring to your attention. The first one is a really good news story about a brand new campaign which was announced last Saturday. The campaign affects the whole school. It's to provide new facilities, including new dorms. It's to look at new initiatives. It's to provide scholarships. It's to provide endowments for faculty members as well. And the target is to raise $65 million. And it's the first really major campaign that the school has had. And on Saturday, it was announced to a wonderful celebrity gathering of people here at the school that we have raised $55 million towards that target. And that's incredible. But that's going to be the first campaign of many, so that the school can have as much resource, as much investment as it needs to do what it wants to for the future. So that's one. The other is just to tell you a little bit about our Visiting Artists program, which I think is really well established and really very, very exciting. I'll just mention there are a whole bevy of people who come through to give concerts and to give masterclasses and to work with the students. But there are two in particular I would mention. One is coming through in the next couple of weeks, and it's a group called Eighth Blackbird. And they're here at the beginning of October. Very exciting new music group doing stuff in a very different way. And it's not just that they're giving a concert, it's the fact that they're working with our students, and they're also going to be talking about their lives and how they set up this brand new entity. So I think there's a lot that can be learned from that. And the other who are coming through town at the beginning of next year is an ensemble from the New York Philharmonic. And that should be very exciting. And obviously they're very distinguished because they're members of the New York Philharmonic, but they're all alums of the school. Every single member. And I think that's going to be really terrific, again, not just in terms of performance, but also the opportunity for students to get to know them as well. There's a brand new initiative which has been announced this year, which I will mention to you, called Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. Which we're all taking very seriously because it's very, very important. It's important for the school to understand its place in the contemporary world and its place in terms of diversity. And I'm just setting up a little working group within the music school, which will comprise members of faculty, and I'm inviting students as well to join me. So if our students today are interested, you should let me know. But we're going to meet a couple of times, and it's just going to be brainstorming. What can we do? What aren't we doing at the moment? What could we be doing to improve all of that for the future? And I want to hear all voices, and I want us all to be part of a new way of looking at the school. So I feel very energized by all of that. I'm just watching out of the corner of my eye David Winkleman because I can see his shirt, and I can see I'm following his body language thing. It's probably enough. You've probably spoken for enough. Going on and on. This is supposed to be a Q&A and a discussion. So I should probably. This is something incredibly important that I should have mentioned. I think I'll shut up at this point and open it up. Probably you want to say a few words.
Just welcome to all of you. It's been, for many years, a great pleasure and privilege for me to be in the position that I am, working with students, trying to help everybody be able to do their best possible work and achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. It's a great privilege and a great joy for me. I'm also very much enjoying being able to work with and for Dean Woodcock, Dean of the Interim, as he prefers to be referred to.
I've actually tried now Dean of the Interim. That has a mythic quality to it.
But thank you for being here with us today, and we're eager to have your questions.
Thank you. I don't have
I have an email question that I'll ask, and it's 3 parts, and I think we can handle all 3 parts. Where is the music concert performance schedule posted? Do the students receive 2 free tickets for family members to attend their performances? And if so, how does the student obtain those tickets? And then what is the proper concert performance attire, especially for boys, young men? Some say all black, black dress shirt, black dress slacks, and some say tuxedos.
And some meaning some documents or some students or?
I'm just reading the question.
Okay.
So,
Students are entitled to 2 free tickets for each performance in which they are participating. As an aside, all students are entitled to 1 free ticket for any performance that is a School of the Arts performance for their own personal use. And I will continue to take the free tickets as an opportunity to always plug and encourage our students to get to as many events as possible. They're shaking their heads, yes.
Yes.
They hear this regularly from me during the introduction at performance hour.
Even outside the School of Music. Go to School of
Absolutely.
Dance performances, go see films that film students make, branch out.
To be honest, I am not certain how the student gets those 2 free tickets for the performance that they are in, but that is a question that our Director of Artistic Operations, Mr. Ken Wilmot, will easily be able to answer and help facilitate.
Well, so you can either go to the performance, like in the dress rehearsal, and typically the box office is open. You can tell them, like, I want 2 free tickets, I'm performing, here's my name. They have a list of the people who are performing, and then you get your 2 free tickets. They can either be emailed to your parent/guardian or whoever wants to come, or they can be left at the box office, or if you don't have time to do that because your dress rehearsal was crazy, then you can call the box office and say that, again, I'm a student who's in this performance, may I have 2 free tickets, and they'll put those on hold for you.
Just to piggyback on that comment, you can also call the box office and request that your tickets be placed with your other set of tickets that go with your family's tickets. So if people are wondering, are these tickets necessarily going to be in another section, the student section? Not necessarily. They can be put together, and parents would probably be interested in knowing that.
That is very good additional information, thank you. In terms of appropriate concert dress, that question needs to be directed specifically to the director of whichever ensemble. So for cantata singers, that will be either Dr. Lacoste, who is the teacher of record this semester, or
Jeannie Albritton.
or Mr. Albritton, who is the conductor for this fall concert.
I'll continue to have another email question.
Perfect.
We missed the emails last year for applying for summer study funds. Dr. Farrell said they were sent to students. When those come out this year, would it be possible to also send to parents or give a heads up in the family email, and that message will be going out to students during a certain window? It sounded like last year there were two, one specific to Brevard and the other one to apply for travel for travel or program funding.
There are a variety of funding opportunities for which students are eligible to apply. Some of them are those Brevard-specific or Aspen Music Festival-specific scholarship opportunities. Others are broader in scope and are career development grant applications. That information, once it becomes available, absolutely, we can try to get out to as broad an audience as possible. And Dean Farrell, if you would be able to help collaborate with me on that and include it in one of your weekly
Absolutely.
greetings, that would be fantastic. I realize that with the first question, I neglected to answer where the concert schedule is located. If you go to the School of the Arts website and scroll down to the bottom, toward the bottom are a series of link opportunities, some toward current stories that are being featured about various people or activities on campus. And in that same area is a link to the entire School of the Arts performance calendar. That would be where information about not only School of Music events, but these other events that I'm so eager for students to be getting themselves to. There's another plug for it.
I have another question that relates to music, providing music for piano accompaniment, and how would a student find that music? It's understood that the student is responsible for working with the collaborative piano department and providing that music. And it seems there's been a little trouble finding the music needed.
Well, the answer to that can go a couple of different directions and might depend on the particular piece and the type of situation. The music library, which is located on the 4th floor of the Library and Learning Commons building, has an extensive collection of music which can be checked out, and frequently that is where students are able to find the necessary music. Another way of addressing this, something that maybe we don't talk about a whole lot, but is near and dear to me. When I was moving through high school, my undergraduate years, I had the opportunity to gradually create a personal music library. Yes, I could have gone to the school's library and checked something out for a period of months. But that meant I would have needed to return it, and I would have lost all of my markings, all of my fingerings, all of the things that had gone into the learning process. It's not necessarily practical or possible for a student to purchase their own copy of every piece that they're learning, but there certainly might be an opportunity to begin to make targeted decisions in a strategic way about core elements to a music library that could begin to be accumulated. And when I was a student, one needed to go to, well, I was in New York City, so Padelson's down like across from the back door of Carnegie Hall, kind of cool. But nowadays, it's even easier because you can purchase practically anything online and have it delivered to you. So between those two avenues, I would hope everything could be covered. If a student is searching for something in the library here and not able to locate it, we have some very helpful folk on the fourth floor of the library who want to be asked questions. So please ask them, and they will be just thrilled to help locate things for you.
Does UNCSA bring in other colleges for high school seniors to check out?
From time to time, yes. We will get invitate or requests from various places, and as we are able to help coordinate and accommodate that, we're happy to do that.
Kinsey, do you have?
Yeah. Also in the high school side, we do that. So we've had a few college visits. We had Emerson yesterday and we had Oberlin the day before. So we have programs that are also coming and talking to our high school and seeing about, letting students know about the programs they have there as well. So there are two different avenues where students can hear about colleges.
Also, sorry, sometimes colleges have regional college counselors, and so like I know for a school that I'm interested in, they have a college counselor that works for their university but in North Carolina. So sometimes if you contact your regional counselor and you're like, hey, I'm in the Winston-Salem area, do you want to just meet me at UNCSA so we can have a conversation? You know, establishing that relationship with your college counselor and your college admissions officer is like a good way to do that, is if they have a regional manager for each state.
Are students on their own to do that, or is there a process through which our students are encouraged to go through UNCSA to do that?
You all are doing intentional meetings with the seniors. Maybe that would be better for you to answer.
It's something that we talk about in their meetings. So if there is a specific school or if they know a specific contact, usually I would encourage them to reach out and start making that connection for them. We can definitely facilitate it too.
And we also post the list of colleges visiting on our bulletin board on the third floor of Gray. We have a college planning bulletin board, and we keep that updated with the upcoming college visits.
Can we get that posted online so the parents can see it?
Yep. We can make sure that it may come through we could do an email. I know we have an e-doc with that information that we've been sending to students, and we can make parents available.
Are there questions from the folk gathered around the table in this room?
Yeah, you know I've got some.
Please.
I don't even know where to start. I'm so new into this, so forgive me. I've been reading a lot and learning a lot because I'm very new to this process. I have no musical background whatsoever. So what I've been trying to do is listen to a lot of podcasts and do a lot of reading. And I'm finding that there's a huge emphasis on students getting out, not getting in. The goal is not to get into the college of choice, the university of choice, or find the teacher of choice so much as they're keeping that in mind with what are their ultimate goals, what are their career goals, and talking about career portfolios versus just the center job of, the once in a lifetime opportunity of the symphony that's a generational turnover. So if that opportunity is not there, or you don't find it immediately, and you kind of work your way up into it, what are the steps to get you there? And what are you going to have to do to sustain yourself until that opening comes? Should that be writing, composing, teaching, being a music clinician, all these different things, and where a master's degree falls into that conversation? This is a complex question, so my question is, how does UNCSA prepare our music students for portfolio careers initially, so they can sustain and keep in their musical lives and have enough money to keep going forward?
Yeah, I'll have a go at answering that. What you outlined is very, very accurate. The only change I would make, or revision to what you said, is that you're presenting, what I heard you say was you're almost presenting the portfolio life as leading to this full-time position in a major institution. And it often, more than often, it does not work that way. It's the portfolio life which you have to be prepared for. And it's the portfolio life which is actually going to create the work that you need and the income that you need to sustain your life. So beginning a portfolio career is, I think, a very exciting opportunity for young musicians. And it will involve everything. I mean, you're going to be gigging, you're going to be playing in orchestras, undoubtedly you're going to be teaching. Undoubtedly you're going to be teaching. I'll say it again. Undoubtedly you're going to be teaching. Okay, you get the point. I'm making a point. It can be project work in the community. You might find things that you've discovered with technology or with arranging. There are a vast variety of new skills that you need in order to be successful in the contemporary world, because the contemporary world is demanding different things from musicians now. And you can either say, well, that's not right and we don't like it and all the rest of it, which I think would be pretty meaningless because the world has moved on, or we can actually go with the flow and embrace this as a wonderful opportunity. I think the School of Music it is developing career services skills, and it's developing entrepreneurship as well. And the university itself has got entrepreneurship very much in its mind. It was announced the other day that there's now a new minor in entrepreneurship, which I think is significant. And I think all of that is to help all of you be successful when you leave. It's not just I think these days it's not just a question about how well you play. You know, that old thing about if I play well, they will come. It's obviously you have to be incredibly skillful on your instruments, but you also have to be incredibly skillful in getting new skills to help you with this new world. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. It gets to a point where it's less about trying to plan for every single detail that's going to possibly may or may not happen in the future, and it's just learning from other people's experiences. And because we have so many wonderful guests that come on campus, I've learned from them like how music careers are vastly variant rather than just performing and teaching. And that's like definitely one of the skills that I've gained here, is learning that there's music management, music business, sound recording, engineering, and it's just so broad. And you can kind of make it what you want it to be by learning skills from other people, learning from your teachers, talking to people, reaching out, and using your resources. I know it sounds like stereotypical and cliche, but use them because they're here, would be my advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think that just like beyond that, the beauty of being here is that you learn skills that aren't just applicable to music. So like the skill of like just basic social skills and collaboration is really important. And so many of us are caught up in just like on our phones, and it's easy to send an email, but it's harder to sit down with someone and be professional. And they really teach us how to, carry ourselves here, because you're expected to be at rehearsals at a certain time. You're expected to work with these amazing people, but work with them professionally. Like, they don't treat you like you're a high schooler. They treat you like you're a musician. So I think learning all of those different skills is really important here.
Anything to add, or shall we move on?
You wanted to speak?
Jojo, if she has something to say first. No, okay. I just have a question. It's a bit more pragmatic, I guess. I'm the mom of a violinist who came in as a freshman, and I really appreciate how on the academic side, teachers reach out to parents just with sort of an introductory email, and here's a syllabus, and these are kind of my policies and procedures, and a way to contact should your child need assistance or you have any questions as a parent. And I appreciate that. I don't see that happening on the studio side. So, for example, my daughter came in not knowing what juries were, not knowing the protocol for when schedules get flipped, and she had lessons scheduled during times she was in class, or I was having to drive her back and forth, and it was scheduled on a weekend and she can't drive herself to get there. Or policies and procedures like she came in and her teacher said, we don't do scales. And that was antithetical to all of the teaching that she had had up until that point. And so she didn't understand why, or what what was the pedagogical underpinning to that choice, or just the basics of this is how you switch. It's your responsibility to switch your lesson time if it gets scheduled at the wrong time. Some of those just basic contact points and reference points for how it's going to work within the school. And so I was wondering if it would be possible to create sort of studio handbooks or some way of making that stuff clear to a student when they come in, so they're not so overwhelmed or scared and unsure who to ask when they have questions, or how to go about switching a lesson when it conflicts with a class time, that kind of thing.
Well, thank you. We are in the process of working with IT to create for music what is being called an art hub. And it is in that intranet sort of space that we are envisioning being able to house a variety of that type of information that you were just referencing. We had hoped that we would be able to roll that out with the beginning of this fall semester, and we're a little bit behind schedule with it. But yes, we recognize that there is a need for a central space that just baseline information can be gathered and everybody knows that that's where they can find it.
I have sort of a caveat to that, to her point. As far as communication with your instructors within your music school. For example, I have a junior music violinist, and at some point, I have no idea what her standing is within her studio or the School of Music, and she's got to start thinking towards college. And frankly, I don't know if she's good enough to, go conservatory route, or she needs to, take a career shift. And there's not a whole lot of communication between your teacher, person in the studio, and actually the progression of how your child's doing within their instrument. But part of it is my fault. I tried to contact her teacher over the summer and set up a meeting, and she never got back in touch with me, but I didn't follow up and I didn't pursue it, so I realized part of the blame is on me for not pushing it. But I do feel like I'd like just a little bit of insight, like I've kind of sent her off here and not really sure, where she stacks up and how to guide her in her future decisions over the next 2 years.
Sure, absolutely. There are several strands that we might explore there. In terms of known communication points, there will be midterm progress reports, and that will be a built-in place. But I understand that what you are wondering about is the time between now and midterm, which is still 3 weeks off or so. And what I always encourage is for parents to feel empowered and privileged to reach out and help create a relationship with the major teacher. There is, as you know, a relationship between the student and the teacher developing. But I also recognize that what you hear from your student,
Filtered.
yes, exactly. And that you want to have that direct connection with the major teacher. So please continue to reach out. If you encounter some difficulty with return communication and so on, please feel free to drop me a line. And over the summer, I imagine what was going on is that distance of time and space between here and Europe and festivals and so on. and things can unintentionally get dropped. But I'm happy to help facilitate those kinds of conversations.
Even just having, like, if they are doing a midterm or just some little snippet somewhere along the year. Like, I don't really need to have, yeah, I don't need to know what she's doing on a daily basis, but, you know, at some point, hey, your kid did okay this year, you know, she's progressing, you know, in the manner we would anticipate. You know, maybe just a little bit, particularly as they start getting towards junior, senior year and start having to think about college and helping direct her, you know, do you need to go down that path of pursuing a music career, or perhaps do you need to broaden your horizons a little bit?
Well, as I said, there are absolutely those built-in midterm data points, but speaking as someone who back in the day went through the process himself, and also as the parent now of someone who was actually in the high school here as a senior, and she is looking at auditioning for conservatories and so on, having more than just a few data points, but having a relationship so that the teacher and the parent can comfortably understand each other in terms of the aspirations of the student, so that the parent can understand how those aspirations that they've been hearing from their student are being conveyed to the teacher as well. All of these conversations are important, and I see them as kind of a three-way street, which is a weird metaphor, but.
Sorry, can I like kind of butt in here real quick? Just like another like tip, I guess, would be is, you know, you have the relationship between the student and the teacher, and then you're trying to build this relationship between you and the teacher, but focusing on you and your student. And, you know, going to lessons. I know my teacher has open lessons, going and observing, seeing what your kid is doing, going to master classes. Like, you know, if they're performing in performance hour, orchestra performance, ensemble performances, you know, getting in there and seeing what they're doing. Because, again, it makes us feel really good, you know, when you show up. But it also kind of, it lets us know without communicating, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I really like it. Or, hey, this is what I'm doing. And, like, I'm not too happy about it. So it's just, you know, going and seeing and, you know, experiencing what your student does on a daily basis too helps a lot.
Is that a standard across the whole School of Music, that parents are allowed into master classes and lessons? Because-
You would have to contact their direct teacher. I know my teacher.
Yeah.
Different faculty have
That's-
different perspectives on that.
Okay.
But it's certainly something that can be asked and explored. And it might be that the teacher says, well, having people just randomly show up continuously is too disruptive to what I'm trying to do here with my family of students. But having parents show up on an occasional basis in a planned sort of way might be a different sort of conversation to have.
Wanted.
I guess this is sort of my expectation, but I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, this could be the students. In the situation where this is such a unique school, or unique high school, it was sort of my thought that for each studio, somewhere along the way between whenever the student gets there, that there is an introduction or presentation to career or college paths as part of that studio, or whatever is coming after high school. And I think I hate to use the word assume, but I kind of thought that perhaps there might be a close relationship also between the person in charge of the studio, Assistant Dean Winkleman and Brock Snyder, you know, that there's sort of, it's such a small community that as the student progresses up towards senior year, is there sort of like a package that you guys consult about and say, gee, we see the student possibilities this way, and we're guiding them and showing them possible opportunities? I mean, we've encouraged our daughter to definitely create relationships and dialogues with her teachers, with her studio people, so she can take the initiative and have those. But I guess I'm wondering how much the university steps in or the high school steps in to help the students understand who they are in their art and where to go?
From my perspective, what you are describing in terms of that self-exploration is a central facet, central component of what that one-on-one weekly major lesson work is.
Okay.
If a student comes to me and wants to have conversations, in fact, I have a meeting scheduled with a student for later today. They're wanting to just sit and talk about a variety of issues. They've talked with their major teacher, and now they'd like to have additional perspective. I am very happy to do that. But for, I think, the vast majority of our students, the work that they're doing with their major teacher is the origin of that.
Right.
And then as they go to Mr. Snyder or Ms. McKenzie, they are responsive to, okay, well, the path seems to be toward music conservatory, or the path seems to be toward either liberal arts or pre-med or whatever. Lena, you might be able to speak toward this a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, I know that I started like thinking about college super early, so I just said to Mr. Beck, who's my professor, hey, I'm going to tour this college. We've continued to have these conversations throughout sophomore and junior year of, like where I'm looking at. He's gotten me in contact with a lot of the professors over there, so I've been able to have meetings pretty easily because the music community is really all about connections. Everybody knows everybody. So, and maybe they don't want to go into music, and that's fine too. I personally don't think I'm going the conservatory route, so Mr. Beck isn't leaving me alone. He's still helping me with art supplements. He's writing my recommendations. He's really involved in like checking in about how it's going. I think it's really about your student pursuing the relationship, just starting the conversation, even if it's like, hey, over spring break, I'm thinking about going to tour these colleges. Do you know the professors over there? And it's a really easy way to start a conversation. About like what kind of colleges you're looking into and who's over there. And then, like he definitely directs your student, or my professor directs me to colleges that might be related to the types of stuff that I'm looking into, because he definitely knows a lot more about that than I do, so.
I literally had this experience happen to me yesterday. I was like a little worried about colleges, and my professor, Dr. Lacoste, could tell that I was just like kind of stressed out, and he was like, what's going on? And I cried in his office for about 10 minutes about colleges, and he said, you know what? I think this is, something that you'd be interested in. Take a minute, just come up with an easy list. We'll meet next week. There's no stress. I'm here for you. Like, that was the most important thing. And I feel like all the professors are really, like, as long as the student communicates their needs, they're always welcome to help.
Yeah. So, like, whenever your student goes into a lesson, like, I just walked into a lesson one day and I said, hey, college, I don't know what I'm doing. Can we talk about that? That's exactly what I said. And it was so vague, and he still helped me so much. And then, like, a few lessons ago, I came back with a very big list of, like, conservatories and universities and all of their pre-screening requirements and then all of their, like, audition requirements, and it's just, like, moving forward from there. So if you can just, like, go to your lesson and just, like, say, hey, I want to start talking with you about college, is like, they're going to help you, and they're going to make sure you're moving forward, like, towards your, like, whatever goals you have. They're very helpful.
Absolutely.
And then also one more thing. I know that for me, what was really helpful is like the people within my studio, because I know that, especially in the high school, there's multiple people like who are taking different routes. So I know that I talk to the different people in my studio to see, like, where are the schools that like are good for what I want to do. And So they referred me to a different couple of places that I ended up touring, and I know that just beyond the once a week face-to-face time with your professor, just, like the every single day time you get with your studio mates can be really helpful. Like the grad student that was here my sophomore year was super helpful in getting me acquainted with the different types of colleges. And then I had I had two close friends that went through the college admissions process last year who wanted to do different things, and I learned a lot from them about art supplements and auditions. So it's definitely important to reach out to the people in your studio because they're always willing to help.
And I'll just, on the academic side of that, our role, and particularly Ms. Wilkins, who works with our senior music students, we're working with students, having individual senior meetings with students and helping them really with the mechanics and the pragmatic piece of the applications, the common application, getting teacher recommendation letters, getting transcripts sent out. And so Ms. Wilkins works with the music students, I'm working with drama and dance students. And so your student, if they haven't already, they should have that one-on-one meeting with Ms. Wilkins. And it helps pull everything together so the student brings to that meeting the information or the advice have gotten from their studio teacher, and then we help with the packaging of that into getting those applications out to where they need to be and getting the school materials, the official transcript, and again, the letters of recommendation, and those school forms that accompany the application. So that is our role in that process.
You've been waiting patiently for a long time to ask your question.
You mentioned diversity committee before, and that you were putting together. I'm really curious about. So my kid has 2 years left, and I'm really interested. She has a predominantly male faculty, and I would love to see her have some exposure to.
Sorry.
I would love for her to have some exposure to women who are working out in the community, some female mentorship, because I mean, I certainly remember going through an arts conservatory program myself and having an all-male faculty. I was one of 20 students and 15 of them were men. And it's very difficult. She's particularly young, and I found it very difficult to find my voice in amongst that. And I don't want to transfer my concerns, but I do actually see that happening with my student. How do you negotiate under those in a room like that? And I would love to have someone be able to guide her. Not that I have anything against white men, I don't. But it would be lovely
There's
to
just
have
a lot of
someone
them.
who, yes, particularly in the music department, and it's not that there's any. But these ladies are nodding their heads. Maybe you can speak to what you would like and what would be helpful to you, because I would love it for her.
It's hard when you don't see yourself represented as a female in your field. I mean, I'm in the voice faculty, and so there's obviously lots of sopranos and female singers in the program, but it's hard when most of the special guests are baritones, or they bring in people from the Met who are again old white men, and it's hard when like a lot.
You said it, not me.
I did. I did say it because it's important. I'm not scared of saying it because it's an issue that needs to be solved. We have little to none diversity in the music program. I'm not scared to point that out because it's the big elephant in the room that we're not talking about. And I think it needs to be pointed out and it needs to be fixed.
Sorry, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So when you say you're seeing no diversity in the music program, be specific. What do you
More
mean?
not as like students, but as like faculty.
Yeah.
There is, it's kind of copy paste a little bit.
So my question to piggyback on that is, are there plans to bring in female mentorship, say, in the next couple of years? Like, can I expect that? And then my other part of my question is, specifically in the high school, I mean, we were told when we dropped our kid off, there's a certain expectation of maturity. And we went, great, perfect, fantastic, yep, she's mature, she's got it. But then you start to think about it and you realize that in truth, you're dealing with a neurodiversity in and of itself, because you're dealing with a teenage brain as opposed to, say, a more mature brain. And I'm just also wondering if there might be any plans while you're talking about diversity to think about, we do have a high school here, we do have teenage learners here. Is there a way that we can be more inclusive instead of just expecting them to rise to the challenge? And the reason I'm asking that is because I suspect there might be a cost to them personally.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned.
I totally support the direction you want to take all of this. And I think that you can expect the school in the course of the next few years really to change. I'm having lots of discussions with the provost at the moment. Martin's involved with those as well. And one of the things we've been discussing is a hiring policy and how job descriptions are put together, how we advertise, how we encourage more diversity, how we encourage more women to not just be appointed, but also just to apply.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely a lot of work to be done. Now, I share your impressions of the music school. I mean, there's really wonderful teachers, but there are too many people who look like me.
Taking this one step further, my daughter is a composing student, and I think the ratio of boys to girls in that is much higher boys. And I think in the profession itself, it's very slim with female composers, and that's very discouraging to my daughter sometimes in looking ahead.
Yeah.
And so I think to have some, female, I don't know, mentors coming in, or I don't know, in that profession so that they can look up
Yeah.
to.
I think you're absolutely right. The two areas in music which are so male dominated. One is composing, and the other is conducting.
Yes.
I'm delighted to see that this year I can take no praise for this at all, because this was Brian Cole. But you'll see there are a lot of women conductors coming through.
Carmen.
And I think this is really terrific. I've been involved in Europe in a couple of symposia about women with orchestras and why they are treated or ignored in the way that they have been. And I believe that's beginning to change. And there are some major new appointments with women as the music directors of major symphony orchestras. Marion Alsop is obviously the star as far as that is concerned. But Joanne Falletta and Sarah Ionades, these people are really blazing a trail. As far as composers are concerned, it's a trail, certainly. As far as composers are concerned, there are... I would have to say in Europe there are more women composers. And the more women composers who are really seen at the top of their game and the top of the profession. I see that less in this country. But I think maybe this goes to having more international exchanges. And if you want to see more of these people coming through as leaders in their field, as mentors, we should look at bringing some of these people over, like Judith Bingham, for instance, from England, would be fabulous to have.
But we do have good American female composers too, but how do we get them here? Like, why aren't they coming, do you think?
And I think it's we want them here not because we want to, switch up the whole thing and fire everyone. We want it because we're not doing that, but we want different perspectives within the school. We want different ideas flowing. If we claim to be a place of innovation and creativity, but not having those ideas coming in, then we're practically being hypocritical.
Have you
Or
not
contradictory.
seen some of that changing in the last couple of years? I mean, because I know that Dean Cole is explicitly
No,
targeted.
it's
It's definitely
changed.
been changing, it's
Composition
great.
department has gotten better. We got two
Yeah.
more female composers.
It's changed, but it still needs to be in the conversation, which is why I'm bringing it up.
Absolutely, and you have something you want to share, but something I'd like to bring to the surface, kind of piggybacking on what Dean Farrell just mentioned. On September 11th, so Wednesday a week ago, there was an afternoon in-service workshop centered around EDI. And one of the faculty sessions, which Dean Woodcock facilitated for the School of Music, was the faculty of each individual art school coming together to begin to think about, unpack, reflect on some of these issues. And Dr. Dillon, who's head of the composition department, shared with everybody that when he had looked through the concert calendar for the coming year, and what he does is he reaches out to all of the faculty who've organized various faculty level concerts or guests coming in so that he can direct the composition students to go to certain things. He said he was very pleasantly surprised to see the level of diversity in terms of ethnicity and also gender that was present there without a specific directive from Dean Cole. This was just something that is starting to bubble up more and more. Do we have more work to do? Absolutely. But while we are focused on doing more and more, I would like to make sure that we are seeing and celebrating the progress that has already been made. Not to rest on it, but to use it as energy for the
Will the kids have access, like, do they have access to those performers, and can they chat with them and like spend like an hour with them?
Well, some of what, probably a good amount of what he was referencing would be inclusion of women composers as part of a program, but that doesn't mean that they are here. It's that their work is being represented and being heard.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So there is that facet of it. But typically each December, when we have our intensive arts type work, Dr. Dillon arranges with someone, a composer, to collaborate with the students. It's frequently through Skype distance, so they're in New York or wherever they are working with students. But the work of the fall has led up to this in various ways, and most of the time it has been, in the past few years, a woman composer. He is very conscious of the need for all of us to be hearing the work from those people. Once again, doesn't solve the problem, but please be assured we are aware. And Lena.
And the percussion department, definitely not the most diverse, which is okay. I'm the only female in a studio of 9 other males, plus 3 adjunct professors who all happen to be, again, white males. So not the most diverse, but like Mr. Beck has definitely done a great job as a person who is of privilege. He's done a great job opening up conversations of, I think 2 weeks ago it was, he was like, hey, just read this article about like this woman who had just been like discriminated against and sexually assaulted, and I just wanted to open up the conversation to you about discrimination and making sure that you're doing okay, and like nobody here is really discriminating against you harshly. So I think it's important to recognize like, hey, like we have not the most diverse faculty, but they should be trained to open up these discussions and talk about, you know, the problems that lie in the music department. And from my side, at least my professor has done that. And it's also important to like recognize that while there might not be as many like diverse people in our fields, like I've tried to find those people that exist. And Mr. Beck also, again, like does a great job finding those people and trying to get me to go to them. He's provided a number of different people, as few as they are, for me to go see. He drove us out to UNCG one day just to see this really famous faculty person who works at Northwestern, which I really appreciated. And he's linked me with a couple of different people who are diverse. So I think it's important to recognize that our faculty is doing their best with what they have.
Jojo?
Yeah, so I am very happy this conversation is happening. It's so important. I'm writing my college essay about this. Like, man, I rant about this so often. Okay, but like our teachers are so willing to talk to us, and they are getting like the diversity training one day. Like I think it was the same day I walked in. Like I don't know what I'm doing with college. I went on a whole rant about like sexism in classical music, and I was just like it's so important that we're talking about this. And with diversity, Spinks Virtuosi, they're coming, and they're literally like my favorite concert I've ever seen in Watson Hall. Like, wow, they came last year. It was so
totally
amazing, and they
awesome
play
last year.
super diverse music, and it's just so good, and everyone should go. That's all I have to say. Okay.
I just want to clarify something. When you started your question, did I hear correctly that one of your concerns was how your daughter could sort of train herself or be existing beyond this in a field where it's male-dominated and learning those communication skills? So that there's more than just visiting artists who are female or getting oriented to that. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because I didn't come up through the arts, but I came up through engineering.
Yes.
So, my first job out of school was on a naval missile base, and, and back in the day, in the 80s, you got far less professional training than, for example, your slide at orientation about professional goals, I really liked that. I don't know if anyone remembers that particular slide, but that's one of the reasons we sent our daughter here. So bottom line is, in my day, it was on-the-job learning on how to communicate, and all of my peers were men, and all of my superiors were men. And, there was Tailhook Convention, which is all before you were born, and all these things. So I guess to me, there's a great opportunity here at this university using what you have here, film, theater arts, to actually act out and portray, if it ever were possible, what it's like to be a female in a male-dominated field communicating versus a male communicating, and actually start to, there's no room in these kids' schedules to do it, I'm sure, but whether the students can brainstorm in student government or, help women to learn what those skills are. It would be nice, and I do believe, based on what you all have said here and what I've experienced talking with students, you're all much more professional, you're all much more mature, you're all much more goal-oriented, whether it starts as a freshman or gets there. You do take that initiative, but how do you impart that? Is there an opportunity that you include this training as part of your diversity inclusion program to help younger female students acquire and practice those skills more with people outside even, because everyone here is accommodating. All the male faculty is accommodating and helpful to female students doing that. How do they practice that further?
And it's just making sure that the communication is open. Like Lena was talking about, her professor's not afraid to talk about stuff that is scary or, stuff that needs to be talked about. And, there's a difference between, talking about it and solving it than it is just ignoring it. And, hoping that the problem goes away.
But are there professional discussions that happen in the individual art studios in those careers that, whether it's just a simple handout, I, like you're saying, Lena, your professor presented this one case, and are there other things that can be done? I mean, I'm not saying do it now, but.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a lot about, I'm in the same master class as everybody else. I learn the same skills, the same techniques, and beyond that, I'm in the same ensembles. I compete for the same spots. So I think it's a lot about taking the opportunities that are given to you. So you're being treated as a professional, so you better act like one. And it's not like, I'm a professional female, I'm professional, period, right? So I think it's a lot about like taking these opportunities and just taking the lessons from all of the different things that you've been given. And then also like my professor and like all of the other male professors here definitely are empowering us to try and speak up. Like Mr. Beck really, he asked me, you know, like, have you experienced discrimination here? And then we had a discussion about it. So he's like creating this conversation and making me less scared to talk about it, which I think is really important. So, yeah.
And speaking of opportunity, you all wouldn't have a way of knowing this, but you mentioned student government. Well, the president of our high school student
My
government
president
is
here,
sitting
ladies
here
and
in the person of JoJo.
I would have guessed that.
And as we continue to consider and engage with EDI, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with different parts of the campus through the student government.
Maybe there's a mentoring of older female, or older, you know, more advanced female students, mentoring or pointing out possibilities to the younger female students.
Yeah.
Of what opportunities to pay attention to sort of give them that grooming or, you
I'm
know.
also wondering about the the male student body in the high school. I mean, I certainly heard some instances of what would come across as incredibly white, entitled male behavior. I'm wondering if there isn't an opportunity to reach out to the young gentlemen who are going through the program too, to discuss sort of, to complement that as well. And because I'm sure the boys are not intentionally behaving that way. I'm sure they're just not aware.
Well, and the in-service that I was describing from 10 days ago or so, there was an opening session facilitated by an outside woman guest coming in. And one of the things that she brought to the surface at one point is that there are very real needs at times for the white people to gather and to consider amongst themselves as a group, what does it really mean, this white privilege? And that same notion can certainly be applied appropriately to, well, what does it mean for a white privileged male? And how can we all intentionally contribute to creating the safest, most inclusive, most open environment possible?
And everyone in the high school had to do a privilege bead activity towards the beginning of school before classes start.
They had to do a what?
Privilege beads. So what we did is there's different categories of privilege. So whether it's race, religion, sexual orientation, and you have your little cup, and if something applies to you, you pick the bead. And it sounds menial and kindergartner-ish, but you go down the list of the gender one, and it's I don't have to be, or I won't be hired for a job because of my ability to get pregnant. And so even if you obtain or don't obtain that bead, it makes you aware of the privilege you have and don't have. And everyone had to do that training. And I think, as far as high school goes, everyone is just.
Maybe there should be professional beads.
Well.
And I really like that you presented, Lena, the professional profile, because a lot of what is going on in the world, we keep talking about individual groups, and as much as, there is white privilege or there's this privilege or that privilege, the bottom line is we're all looking to be professionals with one another. You hear about salaries. Oh, the film industry, women want to get the same salary. Well, the same thing goes in science and engineering. I have a peer who she continued to work in the field, had her master's in engineering and business, and she was told in no uncertain terms, if she hadn't had her child, who is now 14, she would be a VP in this company. And so, you know, that has been going on in math and science for years, okay? And it continues, it really hasn't changed that much today. And so I think that what I feel about the privilege conversation is, I know this male faculty here is aware and very sensitive. However, you have to realize, or I would suggest, that perhaps there are many more males that may not be as sensitive and aware of what is out there. And these are, it's not what these women that graduate here, whether it's high school or college, face within this university or the people you bring in, it's what's outside. And so preparing them for that world and saying, yes, ground yourself in this professional model and always stay there. And yes, you should be expecting that from other white males and so on and so forth. It's truly amazing, because I have even been reverse discriminated by other groups teaching, who have assumed that I am a certain thing, you know, whatever that is. Are you Hispanic, Mrs. Lee? You know, where does that come from? So it's just, I just can't say enough how much this is a factor, but I think it's an ongoing factor, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because the university has such a great opportunity to address it.
I will say, I think the thing that's been really heartening this year is that it has felt like for the first time there is really sort of an institutional plan for addressing this at all different levels, with planning put to training for all levels of the high school and university. We have a hiring committee to look at long-standing hiring practices and how we might change those up to broaden the pool, redefine what some of these long-held criteria are, ways to diversify the student body, the faculty body, and that it was a charge from the provost to all of the deans that we have a plan that we could articulate to her and then students, faculty, and parents. And I don't know. It feels like we're part of a kind of an institutional movement. I think there's been movement in individual programs until now, but that we're addressing it in a more comprehensive way.
I agree.
It's been,
I have a question.
Yes.
Just to change the subject a little bit.
yeah, and we have some waiting too.
Oh,
with-
okay,
No,
so
no,
go
no,
ahead,
not
please.
to cut you off. Just-
I noticed that there's an awful lot of faculty here, and then they're also building some more space for faculty. Are they expanding the students that they're going to bring in? And how do they level out, like the music program, for instance? I know the band, you know, they've had a little shortage of different instruments, and I see a lot of faculty, and I was just wondering what they're going to do on the student side and how to level out, for instance, French horns. They're very short on French horns, and that affects the entire quality of the sound of the band, obviously. So that's my question.
Do you want to speak to that, or?
I think you could start with that one.
Okay. What you are touching on is very central to our recruitment efforts. We are always trying to have the best possible balance between one studio and another with precisely those types of outcomes in view. We have, through our admissions office now, some wonderful new resources and tools. Last year, for instance, was the first year that the institution as a whole was able to use a product called Slate, which both helped to centralize and simplify some of the admissions and recruitment tasks, but maybe just as importantly, perhaps more importantly, put us in a position of being able to start to gather very solid, meaningful data, helping us understand better where our applicants are coming from, where an application might be started and then stopped. That gives us something to drill into for understanding that. If we are going to increase diversity in the student population, we need to continue to increase the number of applications. And admissions is very actively targeting those types of activities. Just yesterday morning, Dean Woodcock and I, along with Assistant Dean for Recruitment and Enrollment, Mr. Paul Sharp, had a meeting with the Director of Admissions who was sharing with us a product that he would like to bring on board that would help to enhance those recruitment potentials.
And that was a really exciting discussion as well. Admissions and making certain admissions is producing the quality of students and the number of students that you want is absolutely central to the lifeblood and the future of the school. And you can do admissions in a couple of ways. You can do it the way it's always been done, or you can do it in a new way. And the new way is very much based upon advanced technology and knowing your market and creating relationships within that market. And what really inspired me yesterday, and I've met Paul Raza, who is the head of admissions, a couple of times now. There's this relatively young man who is brimming with new ideas, brimming with confidence as far as technology is concerned, and he's bringing these new ideas to the university, and he wants to use music as his research and development model for these things. And I'm saying, go for it. I mean, he scheduled yesterday a meeting which was supposed to last an hour, and we were listening to him. Within 2 minutes, we were saying, just do it. Because it's what we need. It's the future. It's exciting. It's going to. When we were looking at this product called CapX, and I asked, well, who else uses it? And he just had to say one conservatoire, and I was saying, okay, that makes absolute sense. And he said, Juilliard. So Juilliard is using it. Juilliard has done a full feasibility on that, and it's producing for them what they need, and they're incredibly successful. So we should be following the market leader.
Absolutely, and I have to compliment the technology. Once I found the school, they followed up. I had all kinds of contact with admissions and invitations to the different performances and functions. The interactive website, it was really nice, and it's very easy to follow. The search bar brought me everywhere I needed to go, so that I have to compliment you all on that. That was really, that really helped us make our decision because they kept in touch with us.
That is great to hear, and I will make sure that I pass that along back to admissions.
And I've always complimented them and thanked them for all of their help because I think they do a really great job. But the problem is finding the school. It's kind of a well-kept secret. And I had to really do some searching to find it, and that to me, I don't know why that is.
Well, and this product that was shared with us yesterday is intended to help address that.
Okay, good.
David, we've got about 6 minutes. Can
Okay.
we run through some of these kind of
Absolutely.
quickly? Can you break down the differences between a conservatory and a traditional university, specifically the advantages or disadvantages in applying to either one? That's a quick.
6 minutes.
Oh, that's a quick one. Would
2 sentences or less.
you like to field this one?
Yeah, we can double team this one. I think I say conservatoire, but you say conservatory. Let's call the whole thing off. In Boston, I ran an independent boutique conservatoire called New England Conservatory. And what it was, and all of those things. And what was so wonderful about it was that it wasn't part of a big university. It was independent, and we could act independently, and we could come up with our own procedures, and we could make them as effective and as efficient as we would want, without having the weight of a huge institution actually preying upon you. Yeah, I think that's the way I would describe it. Working here for the first time, I'm surprised. First of all, this is much bigger than New England Conservatory, but it's also much bigger in terms of its bureaucracy, and as such, a big organization with its big bureaucracy moves more slowly. I'll shut up at that point. You take it on from there.
Another way of starting to dig into it is what one might think of as an orientation to your day. From my perspective, if you are within a conservatory, you generally wake up with the thought of, what am I going to do with my art today? And that is not to minimize or marginalize the other things, but that becomes the rally focus for how other things connect, intersect, the kind of synergy that happens. In a liberal arts university, it seems to me you tend to wake up with the thought of, which academic classes am I going to have to deal with today? And then how will my art fit in with that? So it's a question of kind of impetus of orientation. Where is the starting point? At the end of the day, in a conservatory education, you still need to have the liberal arts component. We need thoughtful, creative, critical problem-solving musicians, because you won't be successful professionals absent those qualities. But does it start from music and go out, or does it work the other way? And for me, that would be the fundamental difference.
Besides Oberlin, what other schools have integrated parallel conservatory and university curricula?
Peabody and Johns Hopkins, Eastman and Rochester, Juilliard and Columbia.
I know all these.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
you're
gonna say
naming them all.
Bard.
That's my daughter's list. Like, she wants to do science and music, and she is great at both and loves both, and it's like the stress of my life. But
And there's also lovely like public universities that have amazing music programs. Boston University is the school that I'm looking
University of
at.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Northwestern.
She's
Yeah.
been looking at McGill, great
Yeah.
research university, great music.
So there's tons of options for musicians who love their art but are also, want that more liberal arts education.
And Northwestern does a great job.
Yeah.
They have good reputation on both events.
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt,
Yes.
lovely, another one of my schools.
Brack and I each got the question, who is the school career counselor? I'm not quite sure if they mean Ms. Wilkins, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, again, I think it is a partnership between the conservatories and academics, where in academics, we are, again, as I mentioned earlier, helping them take that information and advice they get from their major teachers and help them with the application process. We have a number of students that choose to do other things and to leave, to actually perhaps pursue music in a different way. And in those situations, I think Ms. Wilkins in my role becomes more critical in helping them identify what potential programs are out there for them, and help them navigate the application process. So career counselor, we really,
It's a team.
it's a team, right. It is a team, yeah. And I'm gonna ask another question about performances here. Are there opportunities for music students to perform outside of Winston-Salem during the school year, school-sponsored opportunities. And then a second part, are there opportunities for students to travel internationally when school is not in session within their art?
Well, there's certainly opportunities for students to perform outside the school. Where's the orchestra going in a week's time?
Elkin.
Elkin, yeah, that's a case in point. There's a good outreach program here. What else can you say on that?
Janet Orenstein helps to organize, she's one of our violin professors, helps to organize a series of outreach concerts to places not only in North Carolina, but up into Virginia, Southern Virginia, middle of Virginia. Maybe not quite exactly what the question is asking about, but there is a high school violinist right now who has worked to start a music club. I'm not remembering what she called it. I saw a sign for it over.
Music outreach.
Music Outreach Club. Her desire is to be able to help organize people who want to go and play in various venues around town. It might be nursing facilities or retirement facilities, other special care. Her heart is with that sort of outreach.
So that's something my daughter's doing every weekend right now, because we are local, so I pick her up on the weekend, she goes and plays at a local assisted living facility, and she's very interested in that group. She's both a pianist and horn player, but that would be something that is very easy to set up locally. So I don't know if the person asking, if that, I don't know how that works, the person's boarding constantly, but just so you know, my kid's doing it, so if it's something that, I can help with or whatever, it's very doable. And it's something she really wanted to do this year. It's very rewarding.
Wonderful.
As far as like international over the summer, I know that college students have a lot more opportunity than high school, but there are summer intensives that my teacher knows of and has connections to. We had a student in the voice faculty go to Salzburg for the entire summer and learn, and went all over Austria, and it was lovely. So there are many like summer programs that allow opportunities for a more higher education music programs internationally.
We're at 12:03. I have one more question, and I think I have a few more minutes to be here. I don't know about y'all. If there are any that we don't get to that were emailed, I'll forward
have a
those.
lesson at 12:30.
Yeah. So please feel good about leaving.
Okay.
And Leslie, Lena, JoJo, thank you. for
Thank
taking
you
the
guys.
time.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it a lot.
Well, I can take one more, but then I have a meeting with a student that I need to get to.
Very good. Is UNCSA more open to offering more student openings into the college program from your existing high school class at UNCSA?
We do not cap the openings in the college program in any sort of way. Students apply and are evaluated against the other applicants that we have. Earlier this week, in this very room, I happened to learn that the Office of Admissions is going to be waiving the application fee for our high school seniors who want to apply for the college. The student simply needs to submit their application before the first day of spring semester.
January 13th.
I have a really quick one. Does UNCSA have a dual degree agreement with any other local university?
We do not.
Would it be something that can happen? Is it a really hard thing? I don't know.
It is a tricky thing, but it is something that many of us, myself included, are interested in pursuing. You're speaking of dual degree.
Yeah.
That particular conversation isn't one that I've heard so much as the possible partnership between us and another local, more liberal arts-oriented university so that students could take classes on both campuses.
Yeah, I'm still trying, I'm trying to find alternatives to, you know, these other big names.
Mhm.
And Wake Forest has a strong science, I guess, biology
Mhm.
in the South. But not set up with UNCSA. So a way for her to keep working with Dr. Serkin, who she's crazy about, and get that biology degree.
Mhm.
I brought it up this morning and she's like, no, we don't have that. I'm like,
We don't have that, although in the latter part of summer, what was announced is a partnership between School of the Arts and Salem College. Not dual degree once again, but for cross-registration. And that is a partnership between a public institution and a private institution. And I am hopeful that having been navigated there will make it more possible for other public-private
Yeah.
collaborations in the future.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Folks, thank you.
Thank you.
We will post this video on the website. It usually takes them about a week to turn it around. The first 3 are up. I'll be reminding folks of that today in my email, and then I'll let you know once the music one is up. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, then.
Thank you for being here.
I wanted to talk to you about the